Gotta love that rousing music.
It is awesome, isn't it?
Yeah, I really like it.
Good evening, everybody. I'm going to try to focus that a little bit more. All right. Yes, everybody, I am this blurry in real life. How are you all doing tonight? Barb, how you doing?
Good.
Cool.
Still
Rob, how you
winding
doing?
down from the holidays.
What's that?
It's still winding down from the holidays.
Yes. So welcome, everybody, to the first Wednesday Wham of 2026. Not 2027, and 2025 is gone, and may it be gone forever. Right, Rob's got that right.
Yes. Bye.
What's that?
Bye.
Yes.
Bye.
So, with us, as always, we have some of the most phenomenal people in the Silverline universe, creators-wise. To my, at least on the screen, left, we have Barb. I got it right on the first try this time. So, Barb,
you must be mirroring because you still pointed the wrong way.
No, on my screen, I got her.
You're the other way.
You're mirroring. Yeah, there you go.
All right, so like, I have to go like this because you're down on my. Anyway, so Barb, introduce yourself tonight, please.
My name's Barb Kjellberg. I have been an inker for over 35 years, a colorist and a writer for the past almost 7 now. And I'm the CFO of Silverline as well. So I've been around the block a few times.
Very nice. I'm going to try this again. Did I get it wrong this time? No, for Barb.
Oh, me? Yes, you got it wrong.
All right.
Yeah.
This is correct.
You probably set your camera
I
for
changed
mirroring.
my camera setting. Yes.
Yeah.
Cool.
Okay.
Cool. Thanks. And then down below. Oh my gosh. Rob Davis.
Yeah, this guy. Yeah. I'm Rob Davis. I've been in the comics business off and on about as long as Barb has, maybe 6 months longer.
I think about 6 months to a year longer.
Yeah, I mean, we started about the same time, about the same era in comics. So yeah, our paths seldom crossed. Even though I think we both went to the Chicago Comic-Con quite a few times. But anyway,
that's only a 2-hour drive for me. So yeah.
Yeah, and it's like a 4.5, 5-hour drive for me. But yeah, I've started out as a letterer, then I became an inker, and then a penciler. I figured out that I was probably best at being a penciler, so I stuck with that, and I have done that off and on since then.
That's an exciting one.
Books that I worked. He's disappeared, hasn't he? Worked on characters as far back in the past as Merlin, and into the far-flung future with Captain Kirk and crew, and all kinds of stuff in between. I'm also the art director and partner in Airship 27 with Tuesday night's podcaster Ron Fortier, and been doing illustrations for them since I think it's 2008. We've been at that a while. So, and that's what I do now, and the occasional comics, and now doing stuff for Silverline as well, including Twilight Grim, as it says right there.
And what updates do we have on Twilight Grim, Rob?
What's the question? I'm sorry, say again.
Updates on Twilight Grim?
Well, it's I'm still not understanding your question. I'm sorry.
Never mind. Never mind. I'm zoomed out a little bit.
I know that we're being on Filbo or whatever it is. It's the whole miniseries is being offered out for sale, and there's going to be a collection of all 4 of them into a graphic novel format here shortly as well, sometime this year. So keep an eye out for that. Look in your what is now previews, whatever that is now, but at your local comic shop and online.
So 2026 will be good for Twilight Grim.
I'm hoping, that, and I'm hoping to get the Secret Project that Barb and I worked on the first issue together, but it's kind of stalled. at the moment, but I'm hoping that'll start back up again and we can do something with it. I wish I could mention more about it because it's stalled, I don't want to give too much away until we're ready to show it to the whole world.
Cool.
But yes,
Cool. Very
that's
cool.
something else coming. Yeah.
Awesome. Folks, if you don't know, my name is John Medic. I am the creator, writer of Sniper and Rook, who I brought under the Silverline banner with a new #1 miniseries by Sniper and Rook Area 50 WA. Hopefully you're going to get issue 2 out this year. That is my goal. It would be fantastic if we could get that on the schedule and get that moving. If I recall correctly, do we currently have a book or books that are up and available for people to support?
I think Cray is up there if I remember properly.
Cray.
Yes.
I should find that link. You'll just
I was going to say I could pull that up,
And I think
I can't
within
I'm doing a weird thing with the little camera here, or with a little.
got almost half the goal on the first day in the first 14 hours. Something
that
like
is
that. Was
awesome.
it's well 37%, yeah, 40%, somewhere in that area, within the first 14 hours, which is incredible.
Yes.
But we need some more folks to step up. If you're interested in Silverlines, head on over to that link that we'll be giving you here shortly, and see if you can't
I'll send the link.
find something there you like.
I'll send the link if you show it. I can't share my screen, John.
Yes,
but
I'm pulling it up now.
But I will share the link. There we go.
Aha!
Yes. And it is currently at 70% funded.
70%. Better than I thought.
4 days to go.
I'm trying to get that on the right one.
Yeah, it's your quintessential barbarian Conan type of story with some real a real twist to it, in the fact that Cray, his village was wiped out, and he was taken by the enemy and raised, and then it turns around that the humans that he was originally born to attack the aliens, and then now he's gonna fight against his own kind, or it's a conundrum. It's an interesting conundrum.
Is this showing up?
Hang on
And
here.
that's my cover for it. There's 3 or 4 different covers. Oh, here. No, there
Put
it
that
is.
back up.
There
Put
we
that
go.
back up.
Okay.
There we go.
Yeah, that's the uninked version. I don't think this is being offered for sale, but we'll see.
Let's see. I've got share screen. Sorry about the tech issues today, our friends. Share.
We're a little out of practice, unfortunately.
Yeah, a little bit. And it's not. Let's see. I add to stage.
Ah, there we go.
There we go.
Okay, you guys can see it.
Yes.
Okay, great. It is lagging on my end, but that is fine. If you can see it, everybody else can see it. That is great. So
Yeah,
I'm
it's
just going to
there.
go back to that screen then for my own sanity. So my background with Cray, I have nothing to do with the creation of it or any of the awesome art or story or coloring or inking. But I was a huge Silverline fan when Cray first came up. And, big into the Cat and Mouse book, big into Silverstorm. Just could not wait until what were they dropping next. And Cray was the original penciler on Cray was Stephen Butler, who we know is longtime Silverline, inker on the original Cat and Mouse series, did some of my absolute all-time favorite Cat and Mouse covers. And when I saw that Stephen Butler was going to be the artist on this new title, I was like, I cannot wait. This is going to be fantastic. And it was. And like Barb said, it's a good barbarian story. It's got the twist about, who took him in, who raised him. I'm scrolling through the page for y'all to see right now some of the assorted interior art. Please take a look at the fundmycomic.com front
the Dean Zachary cover and the Stephen Butler cover are sold. But there's other covers, other art there, lots of good art there that is still available. So
if you're talking the original art, we're down here, the Humphreys with pencils.
Mm-hmm.
Flormonte with inks. Tommy, one of our favorite people who does some drive-bys on occasion.
Yeah, that one's sold.
What's that?
That one is sold, and this Stephen Butler piece is sold too. That's
yep.
Let's see, Fuentes,
and that's a nice piece too. Oh, there's all kinds of nice pieces.
So yeah, definitely please check this out. Please back if you can. Please share if you're not able to back right now. If you can back and share at the same time, that would be fantastic and would be much appreciated. It is a great story. It is going to be wonderful to see it in color for the first time, as it was black and white when it first appeared. Definitely looking forward to seeing the final version of the book. And let's see.
Yep.
You're hosting, John.
Stop
your show.
screaming.
Rock and roll, man.
Are we back?
Back where?
I'm trying to. Are we on the screen?
Yes.
Yep. There's 3 of us up here.
How do I not see us?
Barb's on the left, you're on the right, and I'm at the bottom.
Okay, I'm just looking at our wonderful Wednesday Wham logo up in the corner saying that we've been live for 11:40 some, and the wonderful, awesome montage. Really, I guess
covers, yeah.
Yeah,
let's try this.
Yeah.
Not montage.
Now,
what would that be more?
Now you're front and center.
Yeah, I put you front and center. Can you see yourself?
No.
Oh,
No.
that's weird.
This is not. Oh.
That is very strange.
Yeah, I know I'm not that pretty, but I wouldn't even bounce myself from the screen entirely. You know, at least not intentionally. What the wowzers?
Well, just pretend like you do see it.
There you go. All right.
Well,
yeah,
you got a long lag, man.
Yeah, this is a new camera. I don't really necessarily like it. I think we could understand why I don't really like it. Walgreens not for the win on this one. I'll be trying a new camera next week. Last week with the first, I was using the awesome camera that I got at a thrift store for $4, and everything on that one was way too red. So, but that one I might even swap out a little bit later on. We'll see. But for tonight, do y'all remember what the topic was for tonight?
Yep.
Did you guys prep? Did you guys bring things?
The stuff that inspired us or got us
some thoughts.
Yep.
It's
I always have thoughts.
Most important year or years in comics for you. You know, that's kind of one of the things we want to talk about. And then if we have time at the end, we can talk about our holidays. It is so weird to see me moving in the opposite direction. We could talk about the holidays. We can talk about, some of our favorite presents, time with families, all those wonderful things too. But really what I kind of want to talk about is, what years stick in your mind as some of the most important years, either from character arcs, stories, work, etc., etc. And kind of get an idea of some history and insight and see what we can find out about each other.
I'm wondering if Barbara's going to have the same year I have. That I'm curious.
I'm going to take notes.
I have 3 different years.
I have a couple of different years, yeah. I do too. But I think one of them is we're going to intersect on at least one of them, I think.
Maybe not. These are supposed to be the ones that most affected me.
Okay.
In one year or the other.
Actually, I probably have 4, but okay. I'll throw out my first one and then we'll move along and then I'll come back to me.
Cool.
1976.
Okay.
That
wasn't the one.
Yep.
So, wonderful bicentennial year. Our country was celebrating. Amazing quarters came out that I still collect to today. Barb, what was it about 1976 that made that a banner year for you in the comics?
I was a junior in high school and I was working at the Rexall drugstore. And I was a comics fan, okay, comics fan. But in my mind, comics was Scrooge McDuck and hot stuff like that. And then I was working at the Rexall drugstore, and it was my job to take the covers off of the comics. And I ran across Warlord, Mike Grell's Warlord from DC Comics.
You have talked about this before, yeah.
And I was like 17 and hormonal, and I'm like,
you mentioned the cod piece. I remember this very clearly.
Oh my God, there's this this guy running around with a skull codpiece and nothing else. And I'm like, I was like completely hooked. I had to grab them all. And it was about Travis Morgan, and he was an Air Force veteran pilot from Vietnam. And he flies over Russia and I don't know, flies into this mist and then falls into this hole and comes out in Skartaris. And I don't remember if his hair was white before he went into the hole.
Yeah, I never read more than a few pages of the book.
But it was very much right up my alley because I was a huge sword and sorcery fan. And this was a whole sword and sorcery fan with a half-naked man running around, and I was a 17-year-old, and I'm like, oh. So that made a huge impact. I mean, all these years later, I still remember his name and everything like that. You know, I'm gonna 60 years later. No, 50 years later.
Yeah.
I still remember all of this because that's the kind of impact, and that was the first time that I realized that comics weren't just Scrooge McDuck and Mickey Mouse. You know, and granted, it was great being able to, I started getting interested in other comics too, because I was the one that was taking the covers off and they were supposedly all these books were being thrown away and they were actually being thrown into my trunk of my car. But because I was so drawn to Warlord, I started reading the other comics that were supposedly being thrown away. So that was a huge impact on me.
No doubt.
And it was all hormonal.
Nothing wrong with that.
Nothing wrong with that. I don't know.
I mean, they have
who hasn't had a crush on somebody from a comic.
Right. And you know, they say that teenage boys are, you know, drooling fanboys. I guarantee you there's drooling fangirls out there too. So, you know.
Thank you for representing them and doing so ever so with excellent taste. So, Mike Rell art, excellent taste.
Yeah.
Yep. Mike Rell
wrote
he wrote and did the art. And it was fantastic art. Sword and sorcery. Lots of action, good looking, mostly naked guy. I mean, what was not to like, you know? So, hi, Pops. All right. That's the first of my eye-opening iconic.
There was also a somewhat semi-naked girl in that too.
Yes, there was, but I don't remember her name at all.
So there was eye candy. There was eye candy for the guys too. So yeah.
Something for everyone.
A guy too, you know, a guy, big-chested, strong guy with a sword for guys to empathize with, but also some eye candy in the girl. But again, all I ever did was look at the pictures of that particular book. So
yeah,
I don't think I have a single copy in my collection either. So I don't think I bought any. It was 76. I was in college. And
I was a junior in high school.
I was in college at the time, and I didn't have much money. So I missed some great books during that period, unfortunately, because of my finances and my other interests at the time. So, yeah.
Would that be the fair sex?
Well,
the fair sex, ladies.
Well, yeah, and again, as I tell people, I remember parts of the 60s or 70s. See, I can't even tell which one they were, 60s or 70s. Yeah, I remember parts of the 70s. Yeah.
Okie doke.
So
somebody else goes next. I'll come back down to me.
Rob,
Rob will go.
Thanks.
The first year that came to my mind was 1986. And that's because of Dark Knight and the change in the storytelling. It seemed like there was a sea change in what was going on in comics at the time. And it had gone from a very adolescent view to a more adult view. The stories were deeper. There was more, the characterization was a little more realistic. So, and that was all kicked off. Yeah, there's Dark Knight, Watchmen. There's a whole bunch of stuff happening then that kind of changed how stories were told in comics. But my year is 1986, and that's why.
And that one was, that's very, very clean and clear cut right there. That's pretty awesome. What was it about Dark Knight that really grabbed you?
Well, Frank Miller's artwork to that point had been more kind of Neil Adams-ish, and it changed to a more iconic style, but it was not that funky Batman of the 40s and 50s, but it was something completely different. And it was just kind of a sea change in how stories were told, and styles started popping up. Very artistic styles started popping up all over the place. And I think some of the influence from independent comics was really bleeding over into the DC and Marvel, and you were seeing a lot more styles represented in comics. It wasn't all, we're all trying to imitate Jack Kirby when we're drawing, or we're all trying to imitate, Steve Ditko or
less house style across the board.
Yeah, there wasn't a house style anymore. It could be just about anything, and it was kind of a real Wild West time where people were trying out all kinds of different stuff. And it's about the time that I started trying to get into the industry. So that explosion helped me get into the industry as well, because there were more opportunities for people who had different styles and or could do different styles than what had been seen before, trying different things. So it was a very pivotal time for me. And that's the period that I'm thinking Barb might also have on her list of influential years, right around that same time period.
Sort of, yeah.
Yeah, I would figure, because I know you got it around the same time period I did. And I'm trying to think, when did ElfQuest start? Was it about that same time period?
No,
right
ElfQuest started in 1977, but I didn't find it.
It was much earlier. That's right.
Yeah, but I didn't find it until the graphic novels came out, and I found them in Walden bookstores. Walden bookstores.
Yeah.
In 1986.
There you go.
Yep. I found them in 1986 in Walden's bookstore, and they just blew my mind.
They blew a lot of people's minds. Yeah.
And it was in color then, and it sucked me in so bad, and it inspired me so much. I just moved up here to Madison from Iowa, from small town Iowa, and I didn't know anyone. I had 2 small children, and I was stuck in the house all the time. And I'm saying, there's got to be more to life than being a housewife and mom.
Yeah.
Because I was just dying for intelligent conversation, for one thing. And then I started reading this comic, and it just sucked me in. And there was some fan gatherings happening in Chicago at WindyCon, which is a science fiction convention. So I plucked up my courage and went to my first ever science fiction convention, and I met all these wonderful fans, and we really connected. And I started doing paintings of the characters and giving them away, because you couldn't sell it because that was copyright. I gave them away to my friends because I liked them. And one of those friends took one of those paintings and saw Richard and Wendy at a show somewhere else and showed him that painting. And the next year that they were at WindyCon, and they hired me to do the painting for their booth, a painting for their backdrop for their booth.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And so the whole time I'm doing this painting, I'm going, you know what? I want to be a comic book artist now. I can do this. I can take my painting skills and I can become an inker. Because I already had good painting skills, and I just had to figure out how to translate that into black and white.
Different brush and a different medium. Yep.
Yeah, I had to translate it into black and white. So I put together a portfolio, and I went out in 1987. I went out to San Diego Comic-Con with a portfolio of everything you should not take.
Like
everything that
all pinups, that type of stuff, or
everything I'd done back to high school. It was like
not targeted.
Yeah, painting, stuff like that.
Okay.
And of course, I just got shredded, but I also learned a lot because I asked a lot of questions. And I went
that's what you got to do. Yep.
And I talked to people, and I went to a Dick Giordano seminar, and I wrote everything down that he talked about. And then I went back and practiced for a whole year. And sometimes I just made lines and lines and pages and pages and pages of just lines to learn my control.
Different line weights doing, Yep. That's how it's done.
And then in 1988, I went back out, and Eternity Comics hired me. And by 89, I was published. And that all came about because I was stuck at home with kids, and ElfQuest sucked me in. So it really, really did, in the most serious way possible, it changed my life. Because I have been a professional comic book artist for over 35 years now, and all because I read this comic. So that's definitely the high peak of my iconic comics.
86 to 26.
Yeah.
So we're talking what, 40 years?
Yeah. Well, I got inspired in 86. I didn't get
right.
I got hired in 88, but I didn't see published print until 89. So, but I was inspired in 86, yes, to be a comic book artist.
So
how about you, John?
Like, it's kind of, I kind of like the song "It's My Party" and I'll cry if I want to. Like, this was my topic for tonight, and I'll cheat if I want to, just because I'm gonna have to pull some of the years together, and it's just so cool that all three of us seem to be targeting that same time period, but for like radically different reasons and different places in life. So Barb, you really struck something when you had said about comics not just being like the Archies and Donald Ducks and stuff of the world, right? I don't know if you said Archie. I think Archie might have been in my head.
But Scrooge McDuck.
There you go. But in my head, I popped to Archie because I had always had comics. I had some Spidey comics back in the day, and my aunt and uncle would read Archies, and they would pass them down to me. So like I've always had comics laying around. I've always been an avid reader. I've always loved it. But it was the 83-84 school year for me where everything changed. I was a 6th grader in junior high, and I was in Mr. Lindsay's history class, finished a test, and we're supposed to sit at our desk quietly until we're done. And I look over at my friend who was sitting next to me. He was done, and he was reading a comic book. And I was like, "What you reading?" And it was a Spider-Man. And he had an extra, he had a couple books. I'm like, "Give me one to read, because I'm bored." So that's when I started reading and said, and started seriously like, ooh, I'm interested in more than just like the one-off issues. And like, I kind of want to get into this. So it was my junior high years, the 84 to 85, 86, 87, that really cemented me as I will have comics in my life, one form or another, one way or another, for the rest of my life. That's when the switch flipped. I was in junior high when Dark Knight Returns came out. I remember that very well. I remember buying the first issue off of a kid in the hallway right outside of the cafeteria because he already had a copy, and so I think I paid him $5 for or something. He made a couple extra bucks profit at that point. I didn't care. Growing up, I had always been, and I guess I still kind of am to some degree, a little bit gullible. And there was a kid, I don't remember his name. I'll have to look it up later on in my yearbook because I'm going crazy that I don't remember. But he came into music class one day, and he knew that I like comics. And there was another kid whose dad owned a convenience store, and the kid would bring comics to school and sell them to people, like for his dad, because there were kids who wanted comics. And so I bought a bunch from him. But I was told this thing where I knew it had to be a lie. because there's no way this was true. But, this kid in the music class told me about this store that he had gone to that weekend that sold nothing but comic books. And I'm like, okay, I'm gullible and people take me for a ride all the time. But a store that sells nothing but comic books, no way. There's no way that this is true. And he assured me it was. And he's like, oh, yeah, and they have this full set of this story that's really, really cool. If you want to give me $20, I'll pick it up for you. And so I'm like, okay, I'm going to get taken. I'm that stupid kid in the movie. Get taken. But I give him $20, right? Comes back a week later. Guess what I got the full set of? Anybody want to guess?
Spider-Man?
Marvel Superhero Secret Wars.
Ooh.
So that had been, all the issues were out at that point. It was on the back wall, bundled up, $20. And so that's when I really started getting into the series, the miniseries, tying all of that stuff together. And now that I know that there's this actual thing called a comic store, it's oh my God, I had to have gone. I had to go. It was a store called Comic Cave in Wheaton, Illinois at 123 and a half North Front Street, because you had to go down.
He even knows the address. Wow.
Downtown area.
In the basement.
Yep, in the basement, no windows. So that would be the half part.
In the case of Columbia, so yeah.
And literally makes it a cave. And I remember seeing things there where I'm like, oh my God, this changed my life. I remember the Nightcrawler miniseries, seeing a couple of those issues on the stand. I remember seeing some G.I. Joe on the stand. I bought my first off-the-wall purchase that day, X-Men meets Teen Titans. So that had been out for a few years. So I think I paid $5 for it, maybe $10 at that point. I don't remember.
I remember to see how much that's worth now.
Yeah, I know. But it was really, really cool because tangentially, I had always loved all these characters. I grew up playing with all the Mego action figures. And then when they did the 3.75-inch line, the pocket superheroes, so this superhero stuff has always been in my life. Yeah, the Star Wars size, you know?
Yeah.
And so it's I'm getting all the backstory. I'm getting into the lore. I'm there with it coming out every month. So yeah, that 83 to 87 period was very, very fundamental for me.
A lot changed about the industry about that time. That's when the direct market came about. So yeah, I mean, the direct market started before that, but it became more and more important than it had been up to that point.
And talk about a great time to be in it. I mean, because now I'm learning about what's the difference with the Spider-Man head in the corner, and why is it in this weird looking M thing? And I was definitely more of a Marvel than a DC kid. So, all the minutia from the Marvel stuff was what is this? And why is this? And my junior high, I went to Glenside Junior High in Glendale Heights, had a strip mall in front of the junior high. Where people would go to get their donuts at John's Donuts. We had Tommy's Red Hots, where people would go and get fries and hot dogs and burgers. And at the end, there was a convenient food store that had a spinner rack. And that became my primary vehicle to get comics, because the comic stores were a little too far. But I was there pretty much every day. I would hound them on days that I knew that the books would be dropping. They'd get them, they'd be wrapped up in the plastic wrap, with a wire this way and a wire that way, the plastic wires, and I was like, comics out yet? They're like, no, we didn't check them in yet. I'm like, I'll check them in for you. Yeah. So I guess I'm working for free at that point. I didn't care. I wanted to, and they were really, really cool. And they always
employee.
Exactly.
Employee.
And so those
a Washington intern.
Those were really some of the most fun days of my youth, getting into comics in a big way. So yeah, that would be the 83 to 87, those 3 school years with the junior high. And in junior high, 8th grade, I was also voted most likely to own a comic book store, which I still have not. But
what a distinction.
So yeah. So Barb,
yeah,
we could circle back to you. What was another one of yours?
It was after I had turned pro. It was around 1990. I read Justice League International by Giffen and DeMatteis. And
the one with the iconic cover.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
just fascinated me. So I had to go back all the way to it. They started in 1987. They started in 1987 and it ran to 92. So I had to go back and get all the previous issues, and then I read up until 1992 when they left the team. But there was something so compelling about their storytelling. They took a bunch of B-list characters and they made them so beloved because they inserted all this humor and heart into the storytelling. And they not only showed them being superheroes, but they put them in relatable situations because they were all living together, and they were arguing, and Guy Gardner was always being a jerk, and they even managed to make what's his name?
Booster Gold?
No, not Booster. No. Well, Blue Beetle and Booster Gold were like best buddies. Mr. Miracle, they might.
I love that costume.
Big Barda,
I've always loved that uniform.
Big Barda,
and Big Barda, and all the while that they're doing this, there's this subplot where Maxwell Lord, their manager, and he's managing like a rock star band, but there's always a subtle villainous undertone to the, he's exploiting them. And it was just such good writing that it made them seem.
There was so much depth and characterization in books at the time.
Yeah. And there was like a slice of life book alongside a superhero book, and you mash it all together. And it was the characters had a lot of depth, and the interactions, the interpersonal reaction between the team members were fascinating, and that really stayed in my head for when I started writing Divinity. I wanted my characters, I wanted them to be relatable. I wanted them to have some humor. I don't know if this one's come out yet. Yeah. But when Divinity's going to find Olivia's bra, and she holds it up and is like, because she's well developed and stuff like that. I wanted to have bits of humor and humanity and conflict and stuff in Divinity, and I did that because I was inspired by this series. And the way it made me feel, and the way it kept drawing me back in, because I wanted to know what happened next. Are these guys going to stop fighting? Is she going to get it on with him? Is
soap opera elements.
Yeah, there were soap opera elements in that series, and I was so sad to see that when they stopped the run.
That the soap opera elements, the characterization elements, that stuff permeated, the 80s, and I think that's one of the things that pulled me in at that time so much. Growing up, we had the one main TV. You did not mess with Mom from 1 to 3 because she had one life to live in General Hospital. So during the summers, I would wake up about 12:30. I've always been a night owl, and
days of
get
our
up
lives
and then watch the 2 hours of soaps with my mom, and then go out and ride my bike for the day and hang out with friends. So I had always been predisposed to the overarching ongoing storylines, the plot, the characterization. Barb, I'm remembering like the Avengers annuals, where the Avengers and the Wackos would have their baseball games yearly. They'd be playing baseball in uniform, but it's like it's the personal connection. I mean, X-Men of the time. They were not always just fighting, blasting, clawing. It's the interpersonal dynamics. That was stuff that went away a lot in the 90s. And then I like the books in the 90s for a whole different reason, because I love the art and I love the explosiveness, because I had already had the foundation in the other stuff. So I'm liking comics for a new reason now. But no, I think that was one of the things that was very addictive for me too. It's very much like you were saying. It's I wanted to care about the characters. I cared about
when they're fleshed out, they're so much more interesting. Like, do you know, X,
they were almost
Y,
like
Z
family.
Loves chocolate, but is allergic to it. Stuff like that.
When you had mentioned with Divinity how that affected your writing.
Yes,
it did with me too, with Sniper and Rook, in ways I never thought. When I started writing the series, I had the two characters, I kind of had fleshed out backgrounds, but as I started writing, I found myself writing Sniper and Rook much less. And I was writing Jack and Rebecca, Jack Barton, Rebecca Page being the two main characters, more. So it was really more like, it became Jack and Rebecca's book. Mm-hmm. And these are the identities when they're on a mission, as opposed to that's who they are. Some of my favorite, Peter Parker years, where it was more about Pete in his love life than when he was web swinging and fighting Doc Ock for like the 69th time.
Right.
Yeah, there was always this little subplot going on about Peter Parker's life
and his personal life.
Yes.
That it was a web. To
nicely done, Rob. Well played.
Or of subplots that ran underneath to get you to buy the next issue. You'd buy it. You buy one off the stands. Oh, the Dr. Octopus is in this one. That looks cool. I want to get that one. But after you're in, then you start reading the subplots. You're going, well, what's going to happen with that next time? After he's defeated Dr. Octopus, wait a minute, that grabs you and pulls you into the next issue. So it was a storytelling thing, but at the same time, it was it just pulled you in. Mm-hmm. It deepened the characters. You cared more about them. So
and you don't get that these days when they're writing for trade. Writing for compilation. It's like, okay, we do it over 6, but not really thinking about the next.
Well, there is some of it going on, but it's not as long. It just goes for that 6 issues. You get a little bit of that pulling you through, but it's not quite the same. It's not quite the same. We're not as hooked into the whole. The next issue's coming out in a month. I think we're moving away from that and more into graphic novels and longer stories like that. So yeah, it's just the industry changes, and that's one of the ways it's changing now. But I'm seeing us come back. What I like though is that we went through that period where it was all art in the 90s. It's the girls with waists this big but they made up for it in how much bigger they were on the upper half, and
I wonder they can walk
in your face stuff and just so, and that kind of took over for a while, and the stories were just that was just something to hang all that stuff on. It really didn't pull you through. It was the artwork at that time, and that didn't appeal to me because I'd fallen into that loving the story. So I'm seeing that some books today have the story, some books have the art, and some have both.
You haven't read Strangers in Paradise yet, have you?
I read it before it was published.
You did?
Yes. The creator actually sent me photocopies of the first issue. I met him on CompuServe, and he sent me photocopies. Yeah. He sent me photocopies of the first issue, and I went, you need to get this. If I were a publisher, I'd publish this.
And that was a soap opera with a subplot of intrigue, but it was it was a soap opera first and foremost.
Yes, and then
but with a subplot of intrigue.
Yeah, and then suddenly that started. It was there all along. If you go back and read, there's little hints of it along the way. He had it all in there from the very beginning. But I saw some of the first pages of that he had created, and so I couldn't wait till he got that published. So I don't think I have everything he published on Strangers in Paradise, but I went through my collection not too long ago, and I have quite a bit of it because I was impressed with the things he did with that book. Yeah, but yeah, it's one of the he draws pretty women, but he also tells good stories. So yeah, he checks the boxes for me.
All the boxes.
Yep.
Same with me.
So Rob, what would be your next up important year or series of years?
I'm not sure of the exact year. It's early 60s, 63, 64, when the Marvel age started out, when you're going away from the monster magazines.
I
At
know Amazing
Marvel and
Fantasy
getting
15 was 62.
okay, so it's right in that 62, 63, 64, when Stan Lee unleashed Jack Kirby and let him create all these superheroes. And it started. That's actually when the soap opera elements began. Was back then. You were getting more. The heroes were actually having personal lives, and for having Spider-Man. The very first issue, he has a heartbreaking issue happen with his uncle dying. So yeah, and so you've got that kind of stuff going on. So that era, 62, 63, 64, right in there, when all that starts up, that was when I was a little kid. I got to see that stuff coming off the stands.
That's so
So
cool.
so it was, yeah, and so that was the era that hooked me on comics. Like you got hooked in 86 and in that era, 84, 86. So it for different reasons. And at that point I was pretty good at art, and I thought, well, looking at comics, I go, well, maybe this is something I can do with this art ability that I've got. If I can work on that and get it to the point where I could get published, that'd be great. And eventually it happened. It took a long time, but it eventually happened. So
That's
yeah,
cool.
so that would be my era, and that's why.
Nice. I think my next one would be the early 90s. In 1990, definitely I have to say, because that's when Cat and Mouse came out, and that's when I learned about Silverline. And that's not long after. That's when I wrote letters to Roland Mann, who wrote back like pen and paper and stamps and everything. Those were now my high school days.
It'd be emailed today, but yeah.
Yep. But it was so cool, and I had a creative writing class in high school, and I had sent it to Roland after it was done. Like, we had to do a story. And so like I did this creative writing story, and in my mind, it was like a comic. I was going to adapt it one day. And I sent it to him, and he marked it up, and he put a phrase up on the top that I use with, people these days when they send me things to review. I was like, these are my thoughts. Take what you like, chuck what you don't. And, and I've carried that through and paid that one forward. So 1990 was big, Cat and Mouse on the scene. That was I want to say that was my big drug for black and whites. I had read some black and whites before. They always kind of felt a little subversive. It's like, ooh, there's no color. Should I even be reading this? But Cat and Mouse was the one that made me start going.
They tended to be a little racier too.
They could. Yep.
They tended to. Yeah.
I was like, can I do something like this? Ooh, this is kind of neat. And it made me love art on a whole different level, because everything was done black and white and shading. You didn't have coloring either enhancing it or sometimes detracting from it. It's just the pure art. And that, I think, launched my love for original comic art as well. 1991, I graduated high school. And that's when I first started. What's that?
You're such a baby.
I'm sorry. But I do love the cross-generational stuff. Like how Rob said that I came in my junior high days for similar reasons that he fell in love with the Marvel stuff in the early 60s. And we were falling in love with the same characters, but for different reasons in different times of their evolution. I mean, and that just shows like the longevity and the universality of it. Ooh, universality. That's a lot of
you got it right.
Tonight. All right. Yay, John. So, I just think that that's some of the stuff that is so cool and keeps comics and the characters endearing to and through today and keeps it relevant. And now we are the ones that just shepherd this into the future and make sure that comics are there for the future.
That's right. That's right.
You know, and I saw in 1991, I started working in comic book stores where I worked first at More Fun Comics and then White Horse Darts and Comics until I graduated college in 96, and they didn't trust anybody else to run it. So they shut the store down. The two guys went into computer training full time, and then they got me an interview, and that's how I fell into post-secondary education 30 years ago. Pretty cool. Yeah. So yeah, but yeah, the 1990-91, we had something in common as well. You know, 1991, that's when New Mutants ended. New Mutants wound up being my favorite comic. I loved Rob Liefeld stuff when he first started popping onto the scene. When they brought him in, he was doing, and they had stuff in Comic Buyer's Guide, and they had stuff in Comic Shop News, and Marvel Age. I'm like, oh my God, I love this dynamic art. It took me a while to track down some of his earlier short DC work. One of it was a short story that was actually an issue of Warlord. So Barb, there you go. Yeah. So that was kind of cool. That one took me forever to find. But yeah, you know, so with X-Force launching in 1990 and McFarlane Spider-Man, I think just the year before, like those were some pretty big years with some big names making some big moves before they moved on into Image in 92 and working in the stores at that time. Oh, and that was huge. That was just really, really huge. Death of Superman, Breaking of Batman, all that stuff. So that would be my next couple years worth. Barb, do you have a third that you'd like to do before we still got a little time to entertain the audience?
Yeah, I already done 3. This is my 4th would be.
Oh no, this is your third. Technically.
No, I did Warlord, and then I did Elf Quest, and then JLI.
Well, the Elf Quest was more like
that's because I pulled the Elf Quest out of her.
Yeah, that was Elf Quest was the turning point in my entire life, though.
I knew that from previous shows. Where we've talked.
I would have to say, and this is not a book that inspired me, but a book that had a great impact on me, and that was Impulse. DC's really? Impulse. Well, that's because the longest I ever spent on a book. I was hired. Yep. I was hired in 1995.
Okay.
I was hired to be an inker with Bill Messner-Loebs writing and Craig Rousseau penciling. And
I love his art.
We had a contract for 2 years, which is a long time in comics time. And it just had this huge impact on me because it well, for one thing, I had to make my monthly. It's not like I didn't have a problem making deadlines anyway, but it was this thing that I did all the time, and I became known for it, and people started flying me out to conventions and stuff like that. And when it came to an end after 2 years, I was really sad because we had really created this tiny little family, you know, between Bill and Craig and I. And I was really sad when it ended. And I wasn't even off of it for 3 months when they called me back and said, all right, our inker's running behind. Can you do 6 more issues? And so I did 6 issues over Ethan Van Sciver. So I ended up actually spending 2.5 years on it. But those were important years to me because it's what I'm most known for one thing, even though I worked for Marvel and other companies at the same time. I was doing this. That was one nice thing about the contract. It didn't lock me in to DC, but it did give
not exclusive.
Yeah, I wasn't exclusive, but it did give me healthcare. Yeah, but
you were an employee.
That's
you were
big.
An employee. You were a contracted employee.
I was, and that to me was important to me that I was contracted employee to DC Comics.
That's a level of validation that not many people did.
That's the word I'm looking for. Is validating. It was validating to be under contract to DC, and for such a long period of time. So that had a big impact on me, I guess. It you know, I'd been freelancing since for at that point 7 years. I'd been freelancing.
Mhm.
So it wasn't like I didn't have the chops or, you know, the books under my belt.
Yeah.
But still, you know, you're still, when you're freelancing, you're still scrambling for every job, right? You're out
You're
there
working on that. You're working on getting the next job while you're working on this one. Yeah.
always,
Yeah.
always working on the next
And
job.
sometimes even further down the line. So
Yep. Yep. You're constantly networking, constantly looking for more work. And here they handed me 2 years of guaranteed work. And it was just so, whew, so relieving, you know,
Now
and
you don't have to worry
validating.
about chasing the next gig. Now you could focus all of your energies on doing the best work.
Yeah,
And
even though
enjoying it.
I still freelance. I was
Oh, yeah.
doing 2 to 3 books a month. Even, you know, at the time I was doing Impulse, that was one of them, but I was still doing other books for other companies. But I wasn't scrambling as much. There was a cushion, you know, and it was validating. That's
was a
exactly the
floor.
word.
there was a
Mhm.
floor.
Yeah,
You
that's
always
exactly
had that. Just Paul. If all the other stuff went away, you still had that floor. Yeah.
right. And it was exactly the word that you said. It was validating. It told me I am worth something, you know, if they're going to contract me. So that was my story.
I love it. I love it. I love you leaving it on a truly heartfelt note. Rob, how about yourself? One last one, my friend?
Well, my era. This one is. You don't. I don't know that you want me to do this because this is a downer.
You know what?
Because
It's balanced. We're all good.
well, it's funny that at about the same time period, 96, 97, I was scrambling. I was working hard trying to get the next gig. And because the industry had kind of
Those were hard
imploded
years.
at the time, and a lot of the people that I had networked with had left the industry, I had a very tough time. And I would get a project lined up, and then the rug would get yanked out from under me, and another one would, and I'd work a little harder, get another one, and then the rug would get yanked out from under that one, until it was about the time when Barb got her 2-year contract that I finally had to say, I can't do this. I've got a wife, I've got 2 kids now, and I've got a mortgage, and I've got to do something else. So I had to leave the industry. Now I didn't stop drawing. I draw all the time. I've always had a studio to work in, and I would sell stuff occasionally. And I worked on some role playing games, and I designed T-shirts, and I did a bunch of other stuff. But it was not my main way of making a living. But what I did do eventually was find a job that had a pension. I I I'd always had a chauffeur's license, which you had to turn into a commercial driver's license, and I became a bus driver, and eventually became a supervisor as a bus driver, and ended up with a pension from that, and that's what's keeping me afloat now, while I'm doing whatever the hell I want,
Yes,
drawing for
isn't it wonderful?
Silverline or myself or whatever. So I guess I just turned those lemons I was just talking. Those have made lemonade today.
I lasted till
I'm drinking the
2000.
lemonade.
I lasted
Yeah,
till 2000 as a full-time
you
comic artist before I
you
had to.
lucked. Yeah, you lucked into a situation, but there's this turnover every 10 years or so,
Mhm.
that
It's
there's a
exactly
churn. There's a
12 for
churn
me.
that goes on the industry. Now, it took me a long time to get over the fact that I had done nothing wrong.
Mm,
I hadn't done anything wrong. In fact, I'd done everything right. I worked on the Star Trek books. I really got very good at doing likenesses, and there were still books that needed likenesses. But every time I would get one kind of lined up, something would come along and yank the rug out from under me. So, but eventually, because and I'm probably alive today because of this as well, because becoming a driver forced me to get when you get a commercial driver's license, you have to regularly get a physical. And one physical, my blood pressure was high. And so I had to go get that treated. Now, if I'd have been a freelance artist, I probably would not have gone to the doctor because I didn't have and no health insurance. Actually, I did have health insurance. My wife was a teacher, so and she had health insurance, but I would not have gone to the doctor just willy nilly because I didn't have any symptoms. I wasn't feeling bad or anything. I could have stroked out and died during that period. Yeah, and so in some ways,
everything happens for a reason.
That career pivot saved your life and lets you do what you love now.
So I can do what I'm doing now. So yeah, and I'm getting to enjoy my kids, my grandkids, and all the people that I'm getting to meet through Silverline. So that would all be gone if the comics industry hadn't imploded and pushed me and the floor fell out for me. So so I guess like I said, I turned lemons into lemonade. I think that's what I learned most. And I think that's what I learned mostly from that experience is that if you look hard enough, you can find a way to make something that seems negative, find some way to turn that into a positive. So that's the life lesson that I learned from that. So so 95, 97, right in 95, 96, 97, right in that same time period is when that happened to me. So it's interesting how there are some parallels there. Although
like I said, I lasted about another 4 years till about 2001 when everything went belly up, and then I had to go part-time on comics.
So you had the same experience only 4 years later. So but that's the churn in the industry. So for
a decade's about it. I was lucky to last 12 years full time.
Yeah, mine was about 9. So
about the lifespan of a full-time comic book artist.
7 or 8. Yeah, it's not the same industry it was when it started in the 30s. You didn't have people like Jack Kirby who did it the rest of his life from the 1930s all the way
only the
into
superstars
the 70s and 80s.
You have to be really big name to last like.
Yeah, because and even some of the folks that are big names today fell out of favor for a while and kind of disappeared and have made a comeback. I can think of several off the top of my head that's happened to, and they've made a good comeback. So but that's there's churn in the industry. The best thing I can recommend for anybody who wants to do comics these days, a young person, do your own thing. There's ways
just
for
like
you to
Silverline.
self-publish. Yeah, there are ways for you to self-publish, or maybe you could find somebody like Silverline that you can do stuff for on a freelance basis. But do your own thing. Come up with your own story, your own characters, and create those. Because I think that's what the future of the industry is going to be.
It's the golden age of self-publishing right now. So go for it.
It is. It really is. Because any and everybody can do it. It's all you got to do. There's a little learning curve, but if you want to do it bad enough, you'll learn it.
And then I'll throw out my last one. 1999. Not just because it was an awesome Prince song, but that was when Sniper and Rook was first published. I self-published, just like you had said. That is exactly what I did. And when I was teaching that night, when the box arrived at the house. And Mom and Dad said my box was there, and they're to come home and rip open that box. They were digest size, they were self-covered, no fancy cover, paper quality, but just to open that and see my book.
Nothing like opening that box.
Amazing. So yes, I second Rob, self-published, you can do it. Our friends at Kablam be happy to print it. There's other printers out there too. I've used Kablam, so I could speak to that. But since we are over the 1 hour mark, I don't want to talk forever. But please, everybody, go. Kind of like Illinois, kind of like Chicago. Vote early. Vote
no,
often.
I'm not doing that. I don't know what's doing
No, that's me. It keeps going away. I don't know why. But yeah, and we could hopefully not give people a seizure on this one. Please check out Fund My Comic campaign Win Cray. It is open for a few more weeks, but don't take the chance of forgetting to buy it in a couple of weeks. Go ahead and order now, and then maybe you'll forget that you had ordered and order another one.
Other stuff to order there as well. There's
and then you'll have a gift to give a friend.
Yeah,
so the gift of comics is never bad. So thank you for joining us tonight. Barb and Rob, thank you both for sharing your histories and introspection and thoughts. And it's always good to know the people
Is it my turn next week?
I don't know.
I believe so. And I believe next week's topic is we are going to live cast 3 news strips or comic strips.
Oh, cool.
Characters. So
all right. Cool.
I'll give you the comic strips that we're gonna cast, and you guys got to think about it.
All right.
And you too, audience.
All right. And so until then, as we like to say at the end of every show, make mine Silverline.
Hey, this is Paul Pelletier. Make mine Silverline. Is that okay, Roland?